Should we all self-mute until we're talking?
Oop, what did I do?
Okay, everyone, here's who's going to order. Chevy, what? Bill, no. Ryan, no. Aaron, and Kim. The last one, second half, losing on what will be the first thing you do as soon as you're able?
Pretty sure that it's like only one.
Okay.
All right, welcome everyone to our second virtual tour this summer. Thank you all for joining us. You are certainly in for a treat. We have a very exciting panel ahead and lots of great tours. We've set it up today as a webinar style, and that way at the end of the presentations, you all can personally ask your questions if you're interested. If you'd like to put your questions in the chat box, I will be filtering through. I'm Carolyn Raymond. I'm the Student Development Committee Chair, and I do welcome you to today's event. I would like to thank all three of the panelists here today. Alex, Alicia, and John, thank you for your time. I'd also like to thank the Student Development Committee. They've put a lot of work into getting this organized, as well as Kate, our Managing Director. All wonderful people to work with and very grateful for them. All right. All right, the next events that we are going to have this summer, in a week from today, Monday, July 27th, we are going to do lessons on grounds and greens, a tour of Mount Vernon, and lunch. That'll start at 11 a.m. If you're interested, please talk with your managers if you're an intern. And managers, you're welcome to join in as well. We love to have MITs or new managers to the area join us to learn more about Mount Vernon and grounds and greens, which we don't get to talk about all that often. And then in August, we are going to do our third virtual tour this summer with Army Navy Country Club, Arlington and Fairfax locations, as well as Washington Golf and Country Club. Registration will be online for Monday, July 27th, and it's active and ready to go. So please sign up when you're able, and a reminder email will go out tomorrow for that. All right, our first presenter today is Alex. She will be talking about Congressional Country Club, and I will send it over her way.
Woohoo. Hey everyone, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull up all this technology here for you. Nope, not what I wanted. Okay, I'm in action, I think. All right, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. I have the pressure of being first up. So we're supposed to talk a little bit about ourselves and how we got here. I have a little bit of a roadmap in front of you to better see kind of where I came from and how I got here. a graduate of Virginia Tech. I actually was a communications major with a double minor in marketing and travel and tourism for fun, and never thought I would actually get into this industry. I graduated and I almost worked for Sports Illustrated for the second year in New York, and I took a hard swerve in transitioning horribly out of college into the real world and took a job at BAE Systems in DC doing financial auditing. At that time, it was kind of my first what we call big girl or boy jobs. And I ended up meeting Michael Lemace, who was the GM at the time at Congressional, and he said, "Have you ever thought about club management?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And about a week later, I had come into Congressional and had a meeting with a lot of our different department heads, just kind of learning about the club and the industry. And 2 weeks later, I was putting in my notice at BAE Systems, and I became the first ever manager in training at Congressional, where I did a full about a 1.5 year rotation, as you see there, in membership, food and beverage, operations, golf and merchandising. And I took time learning everything from how to scrub a dish or wash a toilet to closing on our sleeping rooms and closing our pub. It was a really good experience, a really tough kind of 1.5 years to get my feet wet. At the conclusion of that transition out of being a management trainee, we were like, well, what do we do now? And I became a member of CMAA, which obviously is one of the reasons I'm here today. It's a huge part of my life, both professionally and personally. And I had a huge passion for youth activities and kids programming. And at a very traditional club, as you can imagine, it's hard to break that gap between being traditional and being family friendly. So as a resource, I went to my first ever World Conference, and I met one of my mentors who was the AGM at the Beach Club out in Santa Monica. And I spent a week with her kind of understanding her entire program, which led me to become our first ever director of youth activities. So my focus here at the club was to begin an entire social program for kids. That's not junior golf, that's not swim and dive, that's not junior tennis, that is a social program. So not just an evening with Santa, but things we could have on a regular basis, as well as improving our camp program. And then throughout my time here, as we went on, I became more and more involved in different operations, and I slowly transitioned to what I am now, which is the Director of Member Events and Front Desk Operations. Feel free to make fun of that title because it's a paragraph on my name badge. Lots of people joke me for it, but I kind of am a jack of all trades in different areas of the club. And one of my teams is still the youth program. Another one of my teams is our front desk team that oversees our 21 sleeping rooms here at the club. And then I work very closely with our F&B team to do catering, banquets, and a lot of our big scale member events. So I've been at the club for just over 9 years, which goes very quickly. So enough about me. Let's talk about the club. Let's see if I can get this to work. Here we go. All right. All right, so you guys just saw a little bit of a peek video-wise into the clubhouse and a little bit of history. I don't want to bore you too much with the extensive amount of history that Congressional has, but as you saw, we opened in 1924, and one of my favorite tidbits about our history is during the World War II, we leased the entire clubhouse and its property to the OSS, now the CIA, so it became a training facility, which was super cool. So literally out on the golf course, we had paratroopers and shooting ranges and all that kind of stuff. In our main kitchen, you still see different remnants that hasn't been renovated of how it would be kind of a soup kitchen style where people would pull up right to the front of the line and grab their plate and go. So there's a lot of really incredible history, 5 different founding presidents associated with this club. And a lot of really incredible members that had a huge hand in riding out their horse and carriage all the way out to River Road back in the day, and kind of coming to a place of social atmosphere. So in front of you, you kind of have a little bit of a snapshot of what we have in general. 29 tennis courts, so we have 6 indoor courts, 15 outdoor, and 8 paddle tennis courts. Our tennis program is booming. We have a junior tennis program as well, but we have a director of tennis who oversees tennis, paddle, and pickleball. So we have all 3 of those here at the club. 4,000 member events a year. That is rough. I mean, rough by rough estimate. There are an incredible amount of events that we have both internally and externally. We have 500 team members during the season. Yes, so we have an incredible team here, which I'll speak a little bit more to towards the end. And it is a very busy place for not only the members, but for our team. 9 outlets. I'll share some pictures with you of some of those outlets in a moment. Our Capitol Dining Room, our Founders Pub, House Grill, Chop House, all of those are what we consider our restaurants. Our Pavilion, Stone Bar, Stop and Go, and Midway are all seasonal outlets according to the time of year, all in full swing right now. And we do have a food outlet in our tennis house separate from our clubhouse as well. You saw that in 2008, we underwent a huge renovation and expansion of the clubhouse, which brought us into 100,000 square feet. It's a large building. 8 duck pin bowling lanes, which is pretty cool. We do have a bowling league, men's, women's, and children's. And I think our bowling professional has one of the coolest jobs. He's actually in the Duck Pin Bowling Hall of Fame. We have 8 million range balls a year. That's in the least. We've hosted 5 major golf championships. And then if you notice towards the end of that video, in 2018, we solidified a partnership with the PGA that will have us host some incredible tournaments here, ending in the 2036 Ryder Cup, which is, besides the Masters, arguably the largest golf tournament in the world. So it's a lot of exciting stuff on the brink, and I'll talk about golf a little bit more in a moment as well. 1 indoor pool you saw original to the building, and then 3 outdoor pools. We have our kiddie pool, our family pool, and our adult pool. So to give you a little bit more of an insider free still view, you see here on our left side our ballroom. You saw the murals on the ceiling. Those are hand painted, and anytime we have any damage, we bring in an artist to catapult up there to restore them appropriately. We also had lighting installed, which makes for events a lot more spectacular. You'll see those bright lights into what we call our sunroom, which is on the bottom right-hand area of your screen down here. Our sunroom is a kind of an offset of our ballroom, but this is the largest space we have for banquets, hugely popular with large events and club functions as well. And then a little snapshot on the top right is of what we call our Congressional room. And our Congressional room is our 2nd largest room from a banquet space standpoint. Among all 3 rooms, we can easily fit 400 seated. So one of the things I had to, just because it's one of my passions, explain when we talk about banquets is our kids and family programming. So here's a little snapshot about some things that have come into development with our families. We had a Paw Patrol party. We welcomed over 200 for gingerbread decorating. Our family New Year's Eve, our father-daughter dance, and our fall festival are just kind of all examples of some of the family programming that we've come to create as a tradition here at the club. So we have, like we talked about, 500 member events a year, golf tournaments, tennis tournaments, all kinds of different leagues athletically, social events, wine dinners, you name it. You all know what the business looks like. But one of the things that we're really excited about is continuing our family programming, as it's one of the things that draws a lot of our membership to the club. We talked about dining outlets. To give you a further freeze frame of those, on your top left, you have our Founders Pub. Our Founders Pub is 21 and up to dine, so it becomes kind of a rite of passage for members once they get that big kid on their license stamp. You actually can't see the view, but it has an incredible view of the course on those back windows, and those tables are widely sought after. On the right-hand side is our Chop House, which is kind of like our steakhouse, our upscale dining besides our dining room on our bottom left. Our Chop House is kind of where you go to celebrate your special events, have a little bit more of a formal dinner, a little bit more extensive wine list and beverage knowledge. And then on our bottom right is our house grill, otherwise known as our family grill. So that's where our kiddos will come in at any point in time with our families. And Monday night is the most popular night in the house grill because it is pasta night, and it's outgrown that restaurant so hugely so that we actually host it in our ballroom. So those are our 4 restaurants. And then I take a look at the outside. You see what we call our Great Lawn on the left-hand side, and looking from the Great Lawn back to the clubhouse on the bottom left. That is one of our pools that you're seeing on the top right. It's our adult pool. Our family pool is to the right of it. And then below there is what we call our stone bar, our most popular watering hole. That is one of the first things that actually became available to the members during this very crazy time that we're in right now. But we actually had a huge expansion of that area, and it doubled in size last year. And then, of course, golf. One of the things Congressional is known for is their incredible golf courses. We have 2 courses, and we're actually in the midst of a huge renovation on our blue, otherwise known as our championship course. That is where you usually get that money shot that you see right there on TV anytime we host any kind of tournaments. And that's the course that will be played for all the tournaments coming up with the PGA. So we're really excited for all of those improvements to come, not just from an aesthetic standpoint in the beauty of the course, but also from the usability and the course play. So that'll be really cool to see that transition. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the team just a little bit. One of the things that I think is so special about the club is our group dynamic and our culture here at the club. Here are a couple different clips that you see of our culture, what we call our culture book. We have a book that comes out every year that features all of our team members. On the left-hand side, you can see a little bit of a snippet of some of the things we do internally, including what we call Congo U. So we actually have a schedule of different classes that team members at the club put on of different skills, traits that are both pertinent to hospitality and maybe just worldly skills otherwise, which is pretty cool. We have a really extensive onboarding program and a huge program with orientation. At the bottom, you can see we take pictures of every single what we call orientation classes. As you come to the club, within 2 weeks, you're put into orientation and you get to meet some other fellow team members at the club. So you have more than one familiar face being your supervisor in your first few weeks here. And then on the right-hand side, you see those caricatures. We have superlatives every year that the team actually votes on. And each of those awards are named after lifetime members or previous founding presidents that have different characteristics about them that create, who the team is. So everyone votes on those superlatives, and those are revealed in the culture book every single year, which is pretty cool. So those are just a couple of different features about the team that we think are really special, and one of the reasons why I love working here at this organization so much. So I think I did pretty decent, right? 12-ish, maybe 15 minutes. Wraps it up. Thank you all for listening. And as Carolyn mentioned, we'll be fielding any kind of questions that you guys have. I'm going to turn it over to introduce your next tour.
Thank you so much, Alex. We are now going to hear from Alicia at Chevy Chase Club. And we look forward to all that she has in store. Alicia, take it away.
Super. Welcome, everyone. Really excited to have you connect virtually with us. As many of my team is on this call, they know how challenged I am technology-wise. So we will try to do the best that we can here and make sure that everything's going. Oh, wait. I'm still not doing it right, I can tell. Sorry, they're gonna make fun of me later for it, I promise. Did that work? Am I good, Carolyn?
You are good.
Okay, perfect. Well, fantastic. And thank you again so much for having me. I guess if Alex and I were joking, I said she completely wins the award for having like a roadmap of her life in the slide deck. And I'm going to be lucky if I can remember almost half of mine. But similarly to Alex, I was a student at Florida State and I decided to go to a club management meeting, and I thought it was disco clubs, nightclubs. I was fully prepared to learn everything I could about being a bouncer. And I discovered the world of club management. So quickly got involved and was able to be a part of CMA through the student chapter. And remember being in Hawaii for one of the world conferences. And at that time, I was introduced to Luke O'Boyle, who's the general manager of Chevy Chase Club. I was introduced to him through Michael Wheeler, who's the general manager of Cherokee Town and Country Club. And they just kind of put me in touch with one another. And when I was getting ready to go between basically my senior year into the next, whatever my world was going to hold at that time, Chevy Chase called me and asked me to come interview for our winter center, which is our casual dining operations facility. And so I came and I interviewed to be an assistant manager, and it just turned out that going to Europe and going to 20 countries was just a lot higher on my list. So I didn't end up taking the position and instead toured Europe for quite some time and just felt like that was the best thing ever. And then when I came home, I was hit with the reality, like, you kind of have to make some money and you have to work for a living. So I called Michael Wheeler, who at the time he was not in Atlanta, he was at Medina, which is in Chicago. And I told him that I would wait tables for him. And he was like, nope. He was like, I'm actually going to Cherokee and I'm going to be the general manager there. Call them up and see what they can do for you. And so I did, and I walked in. It's a beautiful club. Cherokee is a platinum club at the time. It was celebrating its 50th anniversary, dual clubhouse facility between a Buckhead location and the Dunwoody location. And they made me their banquet manager. Not quite certain they knew what they were doing at the time, but Cherokee was well known and still is for their manager in training program, but they needed a banquet manager. So that's where I picked up the theory in life of FIO, which is figure it out and make it happen. It was an incredible opportunity to be there. And I left Cherokee about 2 years after that. And I started working my way through other industries in hospitality. So I worked down in Coral Gables, Miami at the Biltmore Hotel. I was very passionate about wine and studying almost through the beverage path. So I did work for them on the sommelier team. And then I was asked to join the Breakers sommelier team. And so I've got to experience 2 different hotels throughout my career, and then decided to move one more time back to Atlanta and owned my own business with my husband. So we did all fresh pasta by hand. We sold them locally in farmers markets, and I almost controlled everything in the front of the house aspect of doing that. And then I worked for 3 members privately, and I collected and procured their wine and really kind of honed in my skills within the beverage portion. Got a call from someone who was at Cherokee many years ago saying that they were going out to a club in Texas and needed somebody who had a lot of knowledge about beverage, but also about service. And so that's what took me out to the middle of nowhere, or more lovingly, Bryan College Station, which is where Texas A&M is. And I worked for a privately owned club by one person, a gentleman who has great wealth and built this extravagant clubhouse that was only 10 years old at the time, and was able to really kind of establish new standards and to the level of expectation that they wanted to perform. I pretty much joke around with people telling them that I was a billionaire's private sommelier, as I worked many evenings in his private cellar and hosted private dinners and went and bought wine in Napa for him and pretty much lived the life. It was really great for quite some time. And I was at another conference for CMA and I ran into Luke O'Boyle again, and we just kind of shook hands. We were very cordial with one another. And in November 2015, he emailed me and said he was looking for a food and beverage director of Chevy Chase Club, and that they had not had a food and beverage director for 12 plus years. And so it was a role that they needed to resurrect. And as I will show you the intricacies of the club, I think John and Alex and I were laughing, talking about what's the difference between doing a tour in person or doing it virtually. And I was the first one to raise my hand, if many of you know, and I can see some of the interns are on this call. We have 12 buildings on 200 acres. You spared me walking around outside in the 95-degree heat to go to all these various places. But I've been at the club since January of 2016. It'll be 5 years this coming January. I definitely had deja vu the other day in front of our gardens, thinking about how you could be a student walking somewhere and that you think this club is so spectacular and so beautiful, and you're so wide-eyed as to what club you want to be at or what you want to do in your world, and then to come full circle and be the assistant general manager and have a huge responsibility in taking care of something that's so historic and so beautiful has meant a lot to me. So I'll show you the club. This is our back lawn. We're known for the Adirondacks, for these handmade Adirondacks. We can scatter up to 200 of the Adirondacks on the back lawn and on our bowling green and 9 green. We do cocktail service out there nightly. And essentially the club, what's important to recognize is it was established in 1892. This is an aerial view of the club, and you can see the Potomac River in the back. So we sit right on the border between Chevy Chase, Maryland and Chevy Chase, DC. And so we are literally probably, 6 miles from the Capitol building. We were developed out of the need of the Metropolitan Club. That is a city club down in DC, and 60% of our membership overlaps. And so back in the day when it was a country, and completely what Alex says, by horse ride, carriage and buggy, it took 3 hours to get out to the country, which is what we were. And so we were developed for our green spaces and for the grounds and for what you see in front of you. We were established as a hunting club, and the Chevy Chase Hunt was something that is very special to the membership here and how we got started. And here's a few historic photos. So in the top left, that was the clubhouse at the time, this very dark, drab, obviously, brown building. And the picture on the lower left, that was the clubhouse so the clubhouse that we stand in today is from 1911. That back section that you see that was rounded out, that was a very large deal for the membership at the time. It was a flat back, and then they decided to kind of make that rotunda and that focal point to our building. The picture that's on the right, that is the original Bradley House. And so the Bradley House was a farmhouse. It's known that presidents had, gone there when there was war and had, all the famous paperwork and things of that history. It has a marking, and you'll see it in a minute, of 1747, which is the original time period of that building. And it now is our overnight guest rooms. But this served as the very first clubhouse to Chevy Chase when it was first established. There we go. And so I threw this in. I know Margot is on the call, and she loves horses. And so I found this one and thought that she would really enjoy it. But this is what the grounds were for back in the day. We had foxes and hounds and these very specific hunts. And if you come into the club today, you can see all the different hunt clubs that were in the area that Chevy took part in. And so this was very much a part of our culture, releasing the hounds across the club grounds and then sending them out. We did have at some point a baseball team as well. And then you can see that we also did jumping with horses. In the upper right, that was the ballroom of the clubhouse in 1911. So that is currently our tap room. When I get to showing you that picture, you can see the bones and the structure. What's really of prominence are those 2 large pictures that are in the background there on the left and the right. They're of Clarence Moore and Francis B. Loring. They are what hangs in our drawing room when you first walk into the club. What's so fascinating, and I absolutely love history, which is another reason that I love this club so much, is that Clarence B. Moore, the gentleman that you see, he was the master of hounds, and he actually died in the Titanic. So he was going over to England, and he was getting a group of hounds to come back over for the club. And he died in the Titanic, obviously, with that tragedy, but the hounds did not. The hounds were on the boat behind the Titanic, so they actually made it back, which I just find to be fascinating. Sorry, I was telling the team earlier that the slideshow has a lot of big pictures in it, so sometimes it takes a little bit to move forward. So this is the clubhouse in all different views, almost, to share it with you. I find that if I've always said that clubs have the best office, right? We don't sit in dungeons. We don't sit with places with no windows. We literally get to work where other people pay to belong. And there's something absolutely captivating about these old historic buildings. But what you have is in the top right, that is the porte-cochere and the front entrance of the club. The picture that's at the bottom of that one is of the club's view head on into the entrance, and a garden that is called the parterre garden that gets a very specific overview and has a very elite feeling that's almost modeled after the gardens in Versailles with how they plant it. But the porte-cochere, just like in Congressional, very historic to the clubhouse. And then the pictures on the left are of the back of the clubhouse. So again, you can see that rotunda, which is the ballroom, being a very prominent architectural feature that they wanted to have at the club, and that was thought of many, many years ago. And then I happen to think that equally in the springtime as it is in the wintertime, the club is very beautiful. Our job is to maximize the green space as a team. Anytime we can be outside in the Washington weather, that's what our membership enjoys. And so that's really at the forefront of what we do when we go after planning. So the top left is the Bradley House. Again, you can see the column where it's the chimney, 1747, the original date. We still have an original beam inside of our Bradley House. That pink rose that grows up the top is called the Chevy Chase Rose. It was not named after the club, but more so the area. And yes, the actor took his name from the area, not the other way around, as many people would think. 18 overnight guest rooms, 3 of which are suites. Back in the day, it used to be the servants' quarter when it first happened. Then in the 50s, it actually was more of a fraternity house, and lots of male membership chose to stay there. And of course, today we use it as our 18 overnight guest rooms. And 2 years ago, it just had a renovation. So it's a little bit more updated with the amenities that it has, at the same time, a little bit more modern in its feel inside. To the right, again, just our historic Adirondacks that we have across the club. As many of my team knows, when you're hoofing it across the lawn, it's quite a feat with how many Adirondacks can be on the lawn at the same time. Our aquatic center, so we have 3 outdoor pools. We have a baby pool, an adult pool, and our main pool, the competition pool. We have a very robust swim and dive team. Something to note, which hopefully John will reference, but one of the events that Alex was talking about that I think is so great about these 3 clubs on the call is that we have an event called the 3 Cs, and it is designed for Chevy, Congo, as we lovingly refer to it, and Columbia. And the 3 swim and dive teams get together. It rotates at each one of our clubs every 3 years, and it is an all-out party for these for the swimming community, for the kids. I think it's an amazing tribute to that these 3 clubs have held such a tradition. And when Chevy hosts it, Columbia and Congressional send people over here to see it, to help, to do check-in, and vice versa. So we actually invite one another along in the process to come see what someone else has done. And it's a really big deal for our swim committees, or our aquatics committees, I should say, is this big party that we get to host. Unfortunately, it looks like one of us is going to lap a year given our current environment, but we'll figure it out. The fitness center was remodeled in 2015. Fitness is the only area of the club that requires an additional membership. So unlike some other clubs that have social membership or golf memberships or tennis membership, at Chevy there is 1 membership, and you then can pay extra if you want to be a part of the fitness facility. Back in 2015, we expanded it by another 4,000 square feet. And so you can see the open space floor plan of the gym. Whoever thought that you could only put 35 people in a gym under the current COVID rules, but you know, there's nothing like having some additional space. We expanded to have 2 group exercise studios as well. And it's connected to our indoor tennis center, which is 4 courts, and you'll be able to see that here in a moment, but a beautiful view of the short game practice area as well in the fitness center. Tennis, or rackets as we now have evolved it to, is a very robust program. There's over 200 ladies and ladies inter club alone. Similar stats to Congressional: 17 outdoor courts, 4 indoor courts, 7 paddle courts. They are hard true style courts. We are an all white tennis facility, and the attire that the team has to wear when they come and play. There has only been 5 directors of tennis in the club's history. And when I got here, the current one had retired after 43 years. And our new one has been here for close to 4 to really invigorate the sport of paddle, which is played in the wintertime. And the little green building that you can see all the way out on the left-hand side in that picture, that's tennis maintenance. And the director of tennis maintenance is the longest tenured employee. It'll be 46 years for him this year, which is just completely boggles my mind when you think about that type of tenure. But everything from junior tennis to the inter clubs by both. And then again, one of our missions was to really enhance paddle as a sport for the club. And so our director of rackets is currently ranked nationally for paddle, and he's taught his whole team to play paddle. So it's made us incredibly busy with that. Golf, and I'm not certain why I chose these 2 pictures, but on the left-hand side, that is the golf shop in the very far back. We are actually a walking course. We've had caddies since the introduction of golf, which was in 1895. So it's our 125th anniversary of golf here at the club. On the right, that's a picture of number 4 and one of the bridge systems that we have within the golf course. 18 holes, very modest club, looking at going under a golf course renovation in the next few years. We, unlike, you know, in every club it is different. It's just the philosophy of how that club chooses to evolve and what they are. Chevy does not host any Monday golf outings. We do not host any major tournaments. We have at some point throughout our history, just like we have in tennis, but it's really more for the members. In fact, our average yearly rounds are only about 22,000, which is pretty low for a club that's membership is 2,400. Ideally though, COVID, which is crazy to think about during all this, it's the busiest the course has ever been, and seeing close to 220 players daily. So this year will be a record-breaking year in terms of the number of rounds, but typically, right, it's just been walk up and play at your leisure and more of a members course. And our lovely, now you'll get to our dining outlets. Let me introduce to you our winter center, and I will joke for all of you telling you that we call it the winter center even in the middle of summer. It's our casual dining outlet, one that is unlike anything I've ever seen before. But back in the late 1950s, there was a female member who had 4 male children, and she had no idea what she was going to do with these children during the time frame during the winter, what she was going to do. So she convinced the board that they should build an ice skating rink. And lo and behold, they decided that is a great idea. And in the early 60s, we went after building this ice skating rink. And as we slowly evolved it, we built what's known as the Winter Center, which encompasses the duck pin bowling lanes. We have 8, the rumpus room, which would be our youth activities room. It's connected to the golf shop. This is the busiest outlet within our, or it'd be equated to the family dining facility. It's open 365 days a year, 3 meal periods. We serve 130,000 covers annually, and it's a 340-seat restaurant in full operation. So the picture on the left is of the winter, us standing on the golf course, looking back at the facility. On the right-hand side, that's coming through our rose garden to look at the side of the winter center. Here's it inside. It is supposed to replicate a ski lodge, and we have 2 different styles of service that exist in the winter center. So we're super creative with names here at Chevy, as I like to tell everybody. And on the upper level, you have a la carte full service, and on our lower level, you have a modified style quick service. So you order at the counter and the food comes running out to you. That's really for the fact that the lower level oversees the ice rink, and I'll show you that here. So here's the winter center off the back side. So you see our smokestack, which has been famous to the club since its involvement. The building on the left with all the windows, that is the winter center, and it oversees the ice and has a breezeway outside of it as well. The right is obviously a picture of the rink. It is a full-size regulation hockey rink. It is the third largest hockey program in Montgomery County. There's over 450 skaters that participate in hockey, and there's over 250 figure skaters, and we even have 2 synchro figure skating teams. It's an extremely interesting dynamic. It is not a covered rink, so we perform an indoor rink schedule and an outdoor rink, which makes it extremely challenging when it rains or when there's snow within the area. But we run the ice from 5 a.m. to midnight almost daily. So I don't think the Winter Center team likes to laugh about it a lot, but we're really only closed for about 5 hours every day for the Winter Center because of how active this area is for the club, and it keeps us busy year round as the program runs November all the way through March. We have a horticulture department, and I know one of the questions was every club has a lot of uniqueness to it and a lot of character to it. And the 2 things that really stand out in my mind about our club is the ice skating rink and then our horticulture department. This to me is one of the coolest departments that I've ever had the opportunity of working with and really partnering with. And it's something that we just have a lot of pride in. The garden and grounds and club surveys have been the #1 most important thing to our membership. And you can tell by the dedication of what they put in. And so the picture in the top is of an overview of the chef's garden, and we have 3 greenhouses. And then in the very back, you can see what's called cold cells. And that's what's forcing up tulips, or it's growing very special flowers that they're placing around the club grounds. In the left of that is going to be the paddle courts, and that's the entrance to fitness. So indoor tennis and fitness and paddle all connected. And then horticulture lives out in the front. We have over 11 gardens on the club's campus, a 2.3-mile nature trail that the team takes care of. And the picture that's in the left is called the long border. That is the garden that is supposed to be modeled like your backyard that runs all the way down 9 Fairway. And so it's a 28,000 square foot garden, one of the largest that there is on the East Coast. And then our rose garden, which we always quote different number of roses. It depends on who you take the tour with as to how many roses are growing in the rose garden. But there are 79 different varietals of the roses and 279 plants that the greenhouse and the horticulture team take care of. They are a magnificent team to work with as they do all of the club's floral for dining. They do private parties and events, so we don't have to contract with outside florists. They are a brilliantly talented team that takes care of everything across the club. This is a ballroom for us. So from the inside looking out, a very large space. You can fit about 300 people in there seated, and this one was set up on a meeting style. They raised the ceiling a couple years ago, about 10, 15 years ago, in order to give it more height. That's the view from the top of the balconies, looking at what we refer to as our main lawn, again, maximizing the green space with parties. And on the right, that's just a wedding that decided they were going to tent one of our balconies that is upstairs. And so really you can transform over almost any one of these spaces in any one of our clubs, I think, into being something extremely magical. This is the club room, and the club room's historic for the fact of this wallpaper. This wallpaper was actually picked out by Jacqueline Kennedy in the White House when she was there. And so it's actually not even really a wallpaper. It's made out of wooden stamps, and you engrave these wooden stamps and you put the paint on it, and then you stamp it into the wall over and over and over again in order to get the look that you're trying to achieve. This specific scenery that we have is historic scenes from Washington when you come in, and it's the second largest of our banquet facilities that we have. The next picture that you're going to see, which is probably what's giving us trouble to pull forward, is the tap room. So again, that would have been the old sitting room or the ballroom to the club. That is the original fireplace that still stands with, the motto of the club. And then on the backspace that's just not in this view is all the different hunt shields. This used to be the men's grill. Back in the 90s, it changed to being both men's and ladies, and is more the semi-formal dining every day for the clubhouse. The sun porch is another feature that's just inside, sits right off of the backside of the clubhouse. Again, this is where like a lot of ladies would play bridge, or where we would use it for lots of club events. Because the membership is so large, similarly to Congressional, when you do a club event such as Christmas, you're doing 1,200 people, and that requires every space that you have in your clubhouse to execute that and make that happen with a membership that's at large. The other thing, and just to throw it in there because we do really love this, but we love Christmas at the club. And this, again, I think is a tribute to the horticulture team and what they do for us. But this is the large drawing room tree that everybody wants to sit around in the holiday timeframe. And yes, it's a little replica of Chevy Chase right in the very front of it. The tree is so large, it takes 18 people to move this tree inside of the drawing room, as the drawing room has about 20-foot ceilings to it, and it's hand decorated and quite a display during the Christmas time. And we do have close to 22 trees across the campus, so we absolutely adore and love Christmas in the club, and it's just always a great time to be around in the holidays. And so other than that, there's just one last picture. It's going to be of the backside of the lawn facing out. Again, much like that was a great slide transition. I'm just going to tell all of you that because many of you know how much I like slide transitions a lot. We do call ourselves the Queen of Clubs. It's the branding we use across what we have. Much like Alex, 450 team members in full operational season. An amazing place to be. You have to love logistics to work in this club. It's one of the reasons I love it, because it's like a puzzle figuring out where everything goes and how it gets there. And really, whenever we screw up, we just blame it on Columbia because they're 7900 Connecticut Avenue. So it's pretty easy to do as a neighbor, isn't it, John?
Absolutely. If we don't want that party, we send it to you.
Right, exactly. Well, we tell people that all the time. We lovingly joke that we run a feature called Dinner at 6100 and it's 2 people for $61. And I say, damn, if we were just down the street at Columbia, we could charge $79.
I'll have to take that.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Seeing those pictures of the Winter Center certainly brought back memories. I had the privilege of starting my career, my first internship at Chevy Chase Club. And so I really enjoyed walking down memory lane with you, and I hope you all did as well. They kind of took my thunder. I was going to say we're going to head to the neighboring club. They are literally right down the street. Columbia Country Club also is very near and dear to my heart. This was my first job outside of college, and I look forward to turning it over to John to personally walk down memory lane again at this club where I was for 3 years, and see what a club right down the street, the similarities and the differences, and we'll have them talk a little bit about, all 3 of them talk about that soon at the end of John's presentation. John, all yours.
Thank you, and welcome to 7900 Connecticut Avenue. I'm on the good side of East-West Highway. So my name is John Afrescio, and I am the clubhouse manager here at Columbia Country Club. I actually started here last September. And I am a product of the club industry. So while I was going to school studying hospitality, I thought I would be in the restaurant side or the hotel side, but I took a part-time job down the street at Chevy Chase Club. Started there as a runner, didn't know what a ramekin was or a Queen Mary was, and I had a lot of great mentors at Chevy Chase Club where I had the opportunities to progress to a banquet captain, assistant manager at the Winter Center, and then concluded my tenure there as the clubhouse dining manager. So I believe I hit probably 4 of those 12 buildings while I was there at Chevy Chase Club. So I spent 10 years at the Chevy Chase Club and decided to take a little change and took a trip up to Buffalo at a small city club, Saturn Club in Buffalo, which it was a little bit too cold for me. So I was there for a little over a year. At the Orlando World Conference, I had ran into Margarita Gilo, who was then the clubhouse manager at Isleworth Golf and Country Club in Windermere, right outside of Orlando. And I had actually known her from my very first year at Chevy. She was an intern there while I was a runner. During that time, I looked at the interns and said I could do what they're doing, and kind of just rode on their coattails and went up the ladder. So packed my bags, the dog bowl, and drove all the way down to Orlando, Florida, at Isleworth Golf and Country Club, where I was the food and beverage manager for a little over 2.5 years. When the GM here at Columbia called me, saying that one of his managers was going home to Buffalo and that if I wanted to then come home here to Chevy. So I went up north, it was a little too cold, went down south, a little too warm, So now I'm back home on Connecticut Avenue. So been here at Columbia Country Club for working on my 1 year as a clubhouse manager. And again, welcome and join me on this virtual tour. So a little history about Columbia Country Club. So established at 1898 and originally was called the Columbia Golf Club. It had several locations around the area before it landed here on this 7900 spot in 1911. As a golf club, they played their last round as Columbia Golf Club New Year's Eve of 1910, and then opened up and celebrated on this location New Year's Day of 1911. And it's been here since that time. So we started a little after Chevy Chase Club down the road. Couple of big dates for us here, obviously with a big blueprint of golf running through our veins. We were fortunate enough in 1921 to be able to host a major championship. The US Open was hosted here at Columbia. The winner of that event was Jim Barnes. And fun fact, that was the only time a sitting president went to view the final round of the championship. And he also presented the trophy to the winner. That was the only time in US history that has happened. And that was President Harding at the time. So that was in 1921. Most recently in 2003, we hosted the US Junior Amateur Championship. And then next year, we're excited to host the US Girls Junior Championship here on this course. So we're very happy to have those golf experiences at the club. So what makes Columbia unique compared to the other clubs that I've been at is they have this mantra of giving that warm Columbia welcome. Carolyn, I'm sure you recall this. They are very persistent that any individual that steps foot on our grounds, whether they're a member, a guest, a team member, whoever it may be, that they are extended that warm Columbia welcome. I know I felt it the very first day I was here. It was as if they knew me already. And so that is one thing that the members from every annual meeting, I believe they state that too many times. But that is kind of really what they strive to make this club unique compared to the other clubs. So why Columbia Country Club? If you ask the members here why they choose Columbia Country Club, some of the easy answers are the location. We're right smack dab in a great area surrounded by a lot of great neighborhoods. Far enough from DC where if they don't want to go to DC for their meetings, they'll host a meeting here at the club just so that they don't have to fight traffic to go down Connecticut Avenue. It's the location, it's right here. Many of our members, we have a little over 1,500 member families. A good portion of that is residential. They live right across the street. A good chunk of them walk here to the club when they come visit. So location is a good part of it. The individuals that I have spoken to when I'm giving my tours to applicants and asking them why they're looking into Columbia Country Club, it's because they know someone. Someone in my firm had mentioned this, or someone I had worked with, or family members. There's a lot of, just like Congressional and Chevy, such old clubs, we have families here that span decades after decades after decades that pretty much grew up in this building. So those are some of the reasons why we have these members. And then 4 out of the 5 new applicants that I've ran into in regards to why they want to join the club is golf. They want to play golf. They want to be able to get out of work and come play golf. And here at Columbia, we have another saying, we're open and available whenever they want. So one of the traditions that Columbia Country Club has is we don't take reservations. Of course, this is pre-COVID days. If you want to come play golf, no tee times needed. Just come down and meet with our matchmaker, and we'll set you up and we can play golf. For tennis, you can come down, come out. We've got 11 courts, play whenever you want. Dining rooms, I wish we had reservations, but dining rooms, you're hungry, come on in. I'm still looking for that person at 7 o'clock that's ringing that cowbell and telling everyone to come order at the same time. They're out there somewhere, because that seems to be the time where all of our dining rooms fill up, and then next thing you know, that ticket printer just keeps printing and printing and printing. So those are some of the reasons why our members have chosen Columbia Country Club, and why they're here, with us. So what do they do? We've got over close to 2,500 individuals, and we need to entertain them. I've spoken about golf a lot. Tennis is probably the big second to that. We've got 11 hard true tennis courts and 1 hard court. During the summer, it's open air, and then during the winter, we put up a tennis bubble over 3 of our courts. So we do have the ability to do indoor tennis in the colder seasons. And for those 3 courts, that is when they're able to book those tennis times. For swimming, we have 3 swimming pools on property. Outdoors, we've got a baby pool, we've got our main swimming pool, and we also have a indoor lap pool that's heated in our family activities building. So there's 4 lanes that is used for lap swimming indoors, and that's open all year round. Paddle tennis is a very popular activity here during the winter season. We've got 4 courts, and they are filled pretty much throughout the whole winter season. Ironic that it's cold outside, but that's what they want to do, and I know in Chevy that's a very popular activity as well during that time. Similar to the other 2 clubs, we've got duck pin bowling. So we have 6 duck pin lanes here that are operational during the winter season, and we have an active league that compete with the other surrounding clubs in the area. Ice skating, although not as large as Chevy's ice skating rink, we do have that we install on our patio. Mostly used by the younger members, just casually, especially after school or if school is canceled. That's when you'll see the ice skating rink really moving and grooving on our property. And then the fitness center that was recently renovated, which I'll go over in a little bit. But on the picture, you'll see a picture of our golf course. Down in the bottom is our tennis courts facility, and then our main swimming pools on your top right. Golf. So this is a picture of our 16th hole, par 3. Legend has it that the designer of Augusta's golf course played here before and kind of gained his inspiration to the iconic 12th hole in Augusta and kind of emulated this hole. Legend has it. No hard proof of that, but I'm going to state it out there just in case it's true. So this is one of our gorgeous holes here at the club, very iconic. And another fact about our golf operations, we have only had 3 golf professionals that we've had since we've started the club. I mentioned that we hosted the U.S. Open in 1921. Our golf professional actually played in that tournament. He didn't win, but he was 3rd place in that tournament. And although he did not win that one, he did win one of the U.S. Opens. So that was a big feat and kind of a big deal way back in time. But we are currently only on our 3rd golf professional here at the club. So in 2009, we finished our renovation of our family activities building. So we have our main clubhouse that houses the dining rooms and then the private function areas. This family activities building is really for the kids. We have our Kids City in this building. We've got Teen Clubhouse in this building. This is where we have our duck pin bowling. our indoor swimming pool, and then our fitness facilities, all in that area. So all the younger and all the fitness activities we've kind of separated in a second clubhouse. So on the top left, you'll see a picture of the indoor swimming pool. It's heated and available all year round. And then the bottom right, so you'll see the main swimming pool, and then behind that, that is the building that we had constructed that opened up in 2009. Okay, so going on to fitness, that is an active part of our club. We've got personal training that's available, Pilates, yoga, group exercise, aqua fitness, Zumba. We have a physical therapist and a spa that you can arrange for massage therapy or acupuncture for the members. So similar to Chevy, this is a separate subscription or membership, and we do get a good chunk of our members that are active in this facility. So top left is one of our exercise areas where we do some personalized trainings. Again, the spa area on the top right. Another group exercise room that we have on the bottom left picture. And then on the bottom right is our equipments, fitness equipments. All right, family activities. So I know I spoke about golf and how prominent that is in our roots here at the club, but as we continue to grow here at Columbia, family is kind of a big part that we see with the members. I spoke about Kid City. Kid City is kind of a short stay area for little children that the parents can drop off their kids for a couple of hours, whether they're playing golf or tennis or even dining. That's a nice little area that they can leave them. They'll be safe, they'll be entertained while they do big boy and big girl things. Teen Clubhouse is right next to our Kid City. We just have a recreational area for the teens. We've got TVs there, ping pong tables, just a lot of activities that can keep them indoors when they're there for a little bit waiting for their parents. Camp Columbia and Winter Wonderland. So typically during this time of the year, we have a very active summer program for the children that we basically run a good portion of our summer season around. It goes weekly. We go through over 8 weeks of camp for the children. And that is something that a lot of the families, pretty much if they have children, they're involved in that Camp Columbia. So Camp Columbia is more on the summer season. We have Winter Wonderland during the winter season. So during winter break, it doesn't extend as long as Camp Columbia in the summer, but we do a couple weeks during winter break where we will host those camps just to continue to entertain the children so that the parents have that ability to do other things. Okay, moving on to dining. We've got 3 major dining outlets here in Columbia. All 3 of them are in the main clubhouse. So on that left picture is our terrace room. That's our family-friendly dining area. So that's where we see a lot of the children, a lot of the families, and that's our most popular room within the membership. We do over 100 covers there on a regular busy night. And all 3 of these dining rooms filter into one kitchen. So we're operating with one small kitchen that's servicing all 3 of these dining rooms. We carry one menu throughout service, and we'll change it up with theme nights and specials and other things on a regular basis. But we are open 6 days a week. Clubhouse is closed on Mondays. We've got lunch and dinner service throughout the week, so Tuesday through Sunday. The weekend is the only time we have breakfast service here at the club. So Saturdays and Sundays is when we add on breakfast service. In that middle picture that you see there is our Columbia room. That is our adult dining area, which is your quieter dining area. We have smaller parties there, members entertaining guests. That's typically the area that they'll sit. And it looks out to our golf course on the 18th, over the 18th hole. So it's definitely a great dining room with a view. And then on the right is our grill room. formerly the Men's Grill. That services a lot more of our members that are into athletics or coming in for a quick bite, or just want to come in for a beverage and social with the other members. That's very active on a day-to-day basis, whether it's after golf, tennis, or after work. We have a lot of our regulars that really hang out in that room. The room there, that was actually a locker room area. So we expanded our dining room outlets and removed that locker rooms. And we did that around 2014 to add that outlet to the club. Other areas that we have for a la carte dining, we've got our snack bar, not 7, but 8, out on the golf course. It's located right next to holes number 7, 8, and 10. And that we have our celebrities, George and Z, who have been running that operation 6 days a week for who knows how long. If one of those individuals is ever sick or out on vacation, the members sound the alarm looking for them, because they are such a staple out there at that snack bar. We have members that will get in their car just to drive around the block to spend some time out there with George and Z. That's how much of a staple they are to our club here with the members. Nothing fancy, it's a snack bar. You get your hot dogs, your tuna salad, your chicken salad, but they really have done a great job creating an experience for the members, and they are truly celebrities here at the club. And then during the summer season, we've got our poolside cafe that services a lot of the quick bites that are coming from the pool right off our pool deck. Moving on, we're not doing quite as much as Congressional with 4,000 club events, but for the size of our club, we're north of 2,300 club events throughout the year. Last year we did 21 weddings. I can't say the same for this year, however. But there's always something going on in this club for the size of the club that it is. We've got 4 private function rooms on our main floor. All of them are in main floor. We've got our blue and gold room that seats about 60 to 70. Our main dining room, our former main dining room, which is now a private function event room, that seats about 80 to 90. Our ballroom, without a dance floor, can fit just short of 300. And we also have a seasons lounge that'll fit about 70 people. So we have entire floor devoted to private events. Obviously, we meander out. We'll utilize the family activities buildings for children's activities. But we definitely stay busy. We typically stay busy here at Columbia Country Club, no matter the season. What you can see on your top right is that's actually our main ballroom that is set up as a ceremony looking out at our veranda. And that's just over our 18th hole, so it's a great view looking out there. Bottom left is in our blue and gold room that was just recently touched up. And then top left is also other settings of our ballroom here at the club. So we've got things going on typically outside of these times, but very similar to the other 2 clubs that we had before me. All right, and that's all I have for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. We really appreciate all that you shared. Wow, today we have really seen 3 amazing clubs. And not only do they all start with a C, not only are they within a 7-mile radius from each other, but they have amazing relationships with each other. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of us work in clubs, is the relationships that we're able to build not only with our local clubs, but clubs around the world. And it's really fun to see the relationship between these 3 clubs being so close. So thank you all for sharing what makes you all unique. But we are going to head into our question and answer session now. Share my screen here. They have all the speakers have kindly allowed me to share their contact information. So please reach out to them after this presentation if you have any specific questions that you think of after we go through our Q&A today. They are warm, welcoming. If you want to come visit the tour when we're in better times, please feel free to do so. So we are going to funnel questions through the chat recorded, and then we are going to spend some time unrecorded after this. If you just want to ask casual questions, get to know the speakers better, we will be doing that as well. So I will start us off. Please fill up our chat box here. But I will start us off. You know, we obviously all know that we are in the middle of a very different world than we were a year ago. And, you know, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least touch very briefly on how COVID has affected these three clubs specifically, and what are you doing to adapt to these times? Alex, would you like to start to let us know how Congressional is doing through all this?
Sure. I think I am similar to say to all three of us, we are still very busy. As silly as it sounds, you know, we are here to serve our membership, and it's one of the most challenging parts I think we have as clubs through this time is it's their home away from home. So we have been joking as a team that at 8500 River Road, COVID doesn't exist. And that is just because we're in this incredibly transitional time where we're trying to apply safety precautions to not only abide, you know, with the county and state regulations and mandates, but to keep our team safe and here all the time, and keep our members safe and here and enjoying. So I think it's been a bit of a roller coaster for all three of us because we all reside within Montgomery County, and the county regulations have actually been different than that of the state of Maryland. So we've been kind of navigating this the best way we know how. At this time, to give you a snapshot, our pools are open by reservation only. Our golf course obviously has been open the entire time, almost the entire time. Same with tennis. Our sleeping rooms are open. We have new safety precautions and standards put into place for our sleeping rooms to welcome members and guests. We have 2 indoor dining outlets open by reservation only, 1 outdoor dining outlet open. We went through an entire phase, I'm sure the other 2 clubs will explain to you too, of to-go programs more extensive than we ever have before, inclusive of pantry items and special holiday features such as Mother's Day, Easter, Memorial Day, beverage packets to go, virtual wine tastings, and dinners. So we've gone through a multitude of different things to kind of help facilitate the club feel their home away from home if they couldn't actually be here. And at the same time, while they are actually here, surprisingly, the second that anything has changed, they have been ready to go. I have to get credit to, especially to our athletics team, because outdoors has been a staple, during this time. And all of our athletic teams were working tirelessly. When they announced that golf and tennis could reopen in the county, we were open within 6 hours of the next day. So it's just a never-changing time. John joked before you guys all got on that every 2 weeks it's something different, and I joke that every 2 days something is different. So I know that all three of us feel the same way in that sense, as we're trying to constantly morph and change to give a wonderful, hospitable experience to our membership, all the while making sure we're protecting the safety and health of our team as well. So I'll turn it over to the other 2 to give some input as well.
Thank you, Alex. Alicia, do you want to chime in on Chevy?
Yeah, I don't disagree with what Alex says. I mean, you can see just from the slideshows alone how massive the 3 clubs are, and that, as I quoted, like, you have to love logistics. You have to love how big the operation is, right? Definitely embracing a big club versus a smaller club. And I think that the bottom line is that everyone's doing more with less. And that is very challenging on its own. When in full operation, you would have 450 team members here. And right now we're still sitting with 140 on furlough. And while we do see it's busy in the sense of there's less people on the campus, so you have team members doing more than what they would typically do in order to make the member experience happen. I think the level of expectation of the membership is like through the roof, because I think in the long-term projection, people, like Alex said, it's their home away from home. So the first place you're going to venture out is not a public restaurant. You're going to go to your club because you believe that the people who are working for you are doing everything possible in their best interest to keep you safe. Plus, you own it. You're paying dues, and substantially quite a lot of dues for not even a fully operational club or facility. So I think there's you want to get value out of your dues. At the same time, I believe the people there are doing a better job than the people down the street who don't know my name. And so I think that puts a lot of pressure on the operational teams to kind of develop the best plan and to try and give as much as you can to the membership with erring on the side of caution. And that's how we take everything, right? Can we take this event? We used to be, or in order to get, through a day in the life at one of these big clubs, I think we would all agree that proper planning prevents poor performance. I don't feel like you can plan for anything right now. I think we completely live in a reactive environment where the thing I tell my teams now is concentrate on the first train that's coming at you, because it may change again tomorrow. On the flip side, what's the saying? Don't ever let a good crisis go to waste, and that there's silver linings to everything. This is the first time that Montgomery County has ever said, hey, go for it, sell retail beverage. And for the brilliantly talented beverage directors that exist at each one of our clubs, that's been awesome, right? Where else can you buy a bottle of Blanton's for $67? Like, I'm just going to say it, right? I mean, it's amazing. And so you get to do some of these really interesting and unique things that you never thought you could do before, and really push the creativity of your team. I'll give credit that typically every August we do a big employee picnic, and our interns plan the employee picnic. It's part of their responsibility when they're here. Well, we're doing picnic in a bag this year, and still figuring out ways to give back to our staff, whether the ones who are active or whether the ones who are on furlough. And they're doing everything from making a video for games you can play at home to a meal that you can put in your oven. And I just love things like that when it comes to the club environment. So it's definitely different, and it changes daily, and we're having to stretch and grow in different ways we didn't think. We all can put on our resume that we've lived through the biggest crisis management of our careers that I think will ever happen, and can give credit to that. If we ever wanted to know what it was like to open a restaurant in 48 hours, like, boom, check that off the list. Like, figured out how to do takeout, figured out, how you put a swimming pool under reservations, crazy things. So I kind of think you just have to embrace the crazy and go with it. And I think it really shows the amount of camaraderie and the amount of teamwork that we all have. And I'd like to say that, these colleagues on the call, I mean, they're all my colleagues and they're all my friends. And yeah, it was, hey, Alex, what are you doing with your overnight rooms? What are the operating procedures you're going to put in place? And that's the beauty of the club environment, is that these 3 clubs sit within 7 miles. And I would like to say that we have multiple overlapping members. I think we would agree. So one of the hardest things about being in that type of radius is, well, why do I have to wear my mask at the pool? Columbia's not, right? Why do I have to, do this at Congressional? Chevy's not. And so, we have to take that good and that bad feedback that each one of our clubs operates differently, and everyone's doing what they can in the best interest. But the willingness to share the knowledge and to say, hey, what are you doing for your employees, or what are you doing in your outlet? And I know that, Columbia had their snack shack open before we did, but I think that ability to lean on one another has been really crucial, since we're so close to one another, to figure out just kind of what's next.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alicia. John, anything to add? What is Columbia doing that's a little bit different?
Kind of what the first 2 C's have said in front of me. I think we're all kind of been on the same page. We've constantly communicated with each other, especially the clubs in the area. We've texted each other, emailed each other. What are you guys doing? What's your timeline throughout this process? So at the very least, we're some sort of the same frequency for the most part. But just another element for the management side of things. here at Columbia, this gives us an opportunity to embrace kind of the progression of the club. Columbia is very well known to be oh so traditional. Reservations, for example, is something that is very unheard of. But for us to be able to introduce that as a way forward, it's a great opportunity to continue to capitalize on this position. Innovation, I know Alicia commented on that. For us as managers here at this club, that's really kind of where our head's at. How do we bring the club to the members if they feel unsafe coming to the club? What can we do to prove to them that, hey, this is a safe environment? What can we do to, for all these members that are paying full dues, how do we keep that value to them, since they're paying the dues throughout? We're at least asking them to pay dues throughout the entire time, yet the facilities aren't at 100%. How do we justify all those things? So it's a great opportunity for the management team here to continue to develop programs, from the beverage program to the athletics program to the dining program, to just continue to elevate, but also at the same time progress outside of the El Tradicional. Communications has been a big part of kind of what's happening with a 48-hour notice from the county and the state. We have a quick turnaround. So how do we then process this to over 1,500 members to make sure they know what's going on, what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's open, what's not open? How do we show them an illustration of what's actually happening at the club? Is it via Zoom, via pictures, whatever it is? It's a fun time as a manager in this industry to be able to have these innovations. So that's kind of what we've been focusing on. Very busy, but very fun.
Awesome. Thank you, John. I think some of your comments leads into our first question, which is, do you think your members' perceived membership value has increased given the management team's adaptability to increase COVID? Who would like to tackle that one first? Alicia, you're smiling. What do you got for us?
I was laughing. Because, one of the things I fondly remember, and John, you'll get a chuckle out of this too, but Will Duthie is general manager of Columbia, and Luca Boyle of Chevy Chase, and they talk frequently. I remember when Will called and he goes, "Oh my God, you're on Facebook?" And I'm pretty certain for us that happened in like 3.5 seconds, right? I mean, for those of you who know, I would think out of the three clubs, even though I think Columbia is very traditional, I think Chevy's probably the most like behind the wall. I don't know, John, you've worked at both, so maybe I'm completely wrong and off on that. But we've always had all of those different areas of social media, and we have like locked them down. We do not use them. We have them, and we have a very talented communications and marketing director. And so I think that during this time, we literally let the handcuffs off and we just said like, go, like roll with it. And John's background is in such heavy video-based marketing and content and putting it together that really our strategy became, right, to answer the question about perceived value, it's how much are we doing so that members still feel the value. And that meant a very solid strategy of, okay, on Sunday nights, you send this out. This is the content of what we're doing all week. These are all the free virtual fitness classes that you can participate in. We did a series of beverage events that were Wine Down Wednesdays, every single Wednesday, right? A different winemaker that I knew would come on the call. It was youth activities, right? From painting with one of our managers to doing game trivia night. And so when literally nothing was allowed to go on at the club, this was the only way we had to connect. And the next thing we ended up doing is everybody, I think, on this call developed a campaign, right? And ours is called Together. So the Together emails became, and it took on a whole new brand and a whole new style that connected back to the club. And a couple of our videos were purely just to staff saying, "Hi, happy Mother's Day, I miss you." And trying to interact on that level with our membership. And we've continued to do that. Now, as more and more and more of the club has become open, we have backed off a little bit, not every week, but every other week. And I think that still the overall strategy of all the departments is riding the line of what is possible, right? So like we're just now talking about outdoor fitness classes, so that maybe, we're still offering online content at the same time. And so I think members can see when they come how much the operational teams are doing to allow them to use their club at the fullest, but yet understand that we have to be fiscally responsible into operating these clubs. And if you don't see the demand in business in your dining outlets, but yet you open all of them all at the same time, you're actually diluting what it is that you have in the limited, amount of the members that are coming and visiting your club. You're diluting what that looks like, but you run the fine balance of how do you give to each one of the different demographics you have at your club while doing it safely, communicating it effectively. And I feel that the communication strategy above all is what makes people stay connected to the club and has really, it's been very few and far between, right? We have not had any members resign on our side, I can say, and that's extremely exciting. And we've had our Chevy run summer privileges, so a little bit different maybe than the other clubs, but for 2 years you have to become a summer member, and we've had a full class of summer members who even waited, who did their tours differently, who may not get the full use of everything, but are still so excited to become members of this club. And I think that that's the staff, that's the way you feel when you walk in, even if you have to make a reservation to come to the pool and it's an 80 person block. So I still think they absolutely, they see how hard the staff is working, and they still believe they're getting some type of connection piece, but I think it's all being driven on the strategic level of what do your communications look like and how everybody feeds into that.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
I just wanted to piggyback something really quick since we're in the face of all of you students with your bright futures ahead. Something that I've come to realize in the midst of all of this as well, and we've talked about our relationships and camaraderie, really and truly, aside from all of these people being in the same, hospitality profession, clubs is a really special niche, and CMAA as an organization is a really special organization. And we, at this time, at least I know, one of the first things when this all happened and talking to my parents in reflection was, oh, wow, I'm really lucky to be working at a club, because hospitality as we know it looks and will look for a very long time very different. And you think about single restaurants who may never make it again in their business. You talk about hotels, big corporate organizations, resorts, like people traveling, right? You get on an airplane. But with clubs, we have this incredible foundation of membership that call themselves home here. And the amount of loyalty that they have to our team, the generosity that they've shown, the support that they've shown at this time, it really is truly unmatched in any other facet of the hospitality industry. So we talk about clubs being special, and by no means do I mean this as a selling point, but I kind of do. That, as a hospitality student, we get to work and see these families who at a time of crisis have been there for us in certain ways too. And I know a lot of clubs around the country have put together, team or employee crisis donations, where they're helping to fund keep the people in the organization here and well and on medical insurance, or helping fund their ways through times that we can't necessarily financially provide them to be. But that when one day, next year, hopefully things look to be what we know it to be, we can have those team members back, or, everything will be more set in the way that we know it as normal, so to speak. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that our relationships are just incredibly different than that of any other set in hospitality, but the membership are as well, the facilities are as well. But if there's anything that I've learned during COVID, we're really, really lucky to be working in clubs.
I would agree. And I think that I try and express that to the staff who don't see it. But I think, to echo Alex's comments, it's really interesting because when you get in and it leads to the, is there perceived value, you get in a conversation with a member, and I'm pretty sure they end up thanking me like 15 times. I'm like, it's thank you to you, right? You're the one keeping, you have a pride in your club. You have facilitated the ability to keep doing this for us. And so right at the end of the day, like, I work for the club and I work for an extended family that I'm happy to take care of, but it's crazy to think of all that generosity, yet at the end of the day, they still want to be the last one to say thank you to you, unlike any other hospitality industry.
For sure. Yeah, it's wonderful. Another question came in. How do you all keep the same standards of hospitality with all of the Montgomery County and state regulations that are out there? Another COVID question. John, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Well, Montgomery County, this is a fun county to be in. Lots of restrictions that we have to work with. So obviously at the end of the day, we have to meet those merits with Montgomery County. For the most part, there's a little bit more than the state compared to the other states. But at the end of the day, you just kind of take what they say and that you have no choice but to work with it. This is the capacity they give you. You work with that capacity. If anything, the challenge to that is actually getting those regulations from the county. Ehrlich here has been probably the last person to communicate across the board. And even after his press conferences, getting those actual written outs has been our biggest challenge, because all we want to do is abide by those regulations. It's just acquiring them is kind of been the biggest challenge on our end. Because obviously we want to be open, we want to be available to the membership, and we want to be safe. That's the number one thing. So at the end of the day, we just try and figure out what those regulations are that the county, the health officials are recommending, and we're taking that as is.
Yeah, I would say to answer that, and I completely agree with what John is saying in terms of like, you want to abide by the rules, you want to do the right thing. I think our team has written more standard operating procedures under COVID than they probably would care to admit. As anybody knows, I am a huge person when it comes to SOPs and picturing things, and this is the way it has to look. I think it has really drawn out creativity. It has made us sit down again at the dining table with each other to figure out, how does this feel like if you don't mark my silverware? And oh my God, you have to reuse a set of silverware. Anybody who knows me would know that I am so freaked out by things of that nature. And so, right, coming up with great ideas like, oh, well, we could use a little amuse plate and put it on the table. And that way, when they're using plasticware, that was a requirement in Montgomery County that you had to order a New York strip steak and use plasticware. I was like $10 for whatever member orders that, because I want to see them cut it. Right? It was some crazy stuff that they come up with. And so I loved seeing my team take what were their principles of how they know they want an experience to be treated, how they could come up with the +1 of how do you improve takeout, right? When your takeout business goes from like nothing to everything. And I saw my team on their very own say, you know what, we're seeing this consistency of certain people. Every day we're going to write 4 notes and we're going to put them in the bags to these memberships, or they're going to coordinate with the horticulture team and pick the herbs out of the garden and then make sure that everybody got a free tomato plant in their takeout. And so it was really about, yes, are there proper etiquette in the form of standard operating procedures? You serve soup from the right and you clear from the left. There's all these different things. I'm sorry, you clear from the right. Why would I not know these things? So I just think that they got challenged a little bit more. Like, if you're going to sit outside, how is that going to feel? And do we really need placemats, or is that just an extra step on the service team that we're exposing them to? So they thought about it from every different angle and then put it together. And the best thing about standards, as we all know, is yes, they can be set, but as the world changes and evolves and people want to be treated differently at the table, we really operate off the theory that no one wrote the rule. So you're going to have to evolve the standard again in order to make sure that people continuously feel like they're being taken care of, up to the point where it's still safe to do so. But putting everybody on the same page and the communication effort that goes out to your team to do that, that to me was always the biggest, like, right, as you join team members in week after week and your operations get busier and you're literally onboarding, right, all over again, all the people who have been out and haven't done their job in 3 months, you know, how do you quickly put them back on the same page and like make ambassadors inside each one of those areas to really set standards in place and make sure that, like, yep, that's the way we used to do it. That doesn't exist anymore in the COVID world. So this is how we do it now on.
Yeah, for sure. So next one's a tough one. We're all looking at budgets at this time, and someone had a question about what are our operating budgets looking like right now, and what are we doing to plan for the future?
Punt to Alex.
I'm just smiling because I will say my general manager, Jeffrey Kriefel, presents at World Conference. One of his most famous presentations is about budgeting, and the brilliance behind budgeting is so beyond my comprehension. I took one semester of math in college. If I could pay someone thousands of dollars to do my budget, for sure would do that. And I have 2 different departments and not even effort. I can't even imagine a food and beverage budget. Anyway, I digress. Point being, yes, everyone's gonna have to shift. Are we all making money right now? No, I don't really know any club in America. And if you're making a ton of money, I don't know what you're doing. But I think right now it's really just a matter of being realistic, right? And that's what we try to always aspire to get those green numbers and the revenue. But a lot of clubs too budget to not make money, right? So you're dealing with different systematic programming that assists your facility to the best of their nature. So I think, funny enough, one of our accounting gurus sent an email out to the department heads, and our budget season actually starts in August. And it goes all the way through, and our first day of our new budget starts November 1. We start in August, starts November 1. So that tells you all the different layers and different drafts that we go through, both as a team internally and then of course from the board level, to approve what it looks like. And this year, I think we're all going to be faced with the challenge of best case scenario, COVID scenario, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's to come in the fall. Obviously, holidays are going to be hugely impacted. I think I actually have been dreaming about our evening with Santa in a nightmare fashion, mostly just because last year we had almost 900 reservations at the same time for one of our most coveted events in a double-sided 2-layer buffet. Think about that, right? So it is, it's going to be a very different situation in terms of how we handle things from here on out, and budget, of course, will be impacted. So it's a really, it's a difficult time, sure, but it's almost going to push everyone's envelope to be more financial savvy. And when it comes to management, a financial acumen is one of your biggest strengths that in theory you should have. So this is going to force all of us to be even more aware of how to cut down costs, and then in turn, how to keep that level we just talked about of hospitality up. For an example of how to be savvy, one of the things that we're attempting to do, and this is close, to my belt and near and dear to my heart, is we don't have our kids' summer camp, right? So how do we do something for our kids this summer? And our kids program doesn't necessarily make any dollars, but it's an amenity. It's hospitality. It's what the members come to the club for. So we're kicking off a new program this week called Congo Playdates, and I gotta hope that the kids like me because I'm all they got. So from a staffing standpoint, labor isn't really a thing because I'm here anyway, right? So I don't have my summer team that we talked about, and you don't have to clock those hours in labor. So a silly example, but how do you get creative with the team that you have, and in taking a look at your budget and what can you do to facilitate a great experience while not breaking the bank?
Yeah, I think this is it's an exercise that we're all going through at this current moment. I know, I believe Chevy is the same as us here in Columbia. Our new fiscal year begins in September, so we're definitely in the thick of thins of the new budget season. Number one step of this exercise is, where's your low-hanging fruits? There's sacrifices to be made across the board, absolutely. And for us, we want to make sure we don't impact as many people if it's not necessary. So that's kind of our mission. So looking at low-hanging fruits, what sacrifices can we make? We're thinking about, hey, we typically send 9, 10, 11 people into conferences next year. On budget, that's close to $100,000. So that's easily 2 people that we're saving their jobs if we all make that sacrifice. Freezing annual raises. These are kind of the low-hanging fruits that we're looking at. And with each dollar amount, we're saying, hey, that equates to this this many bodies. That's three more people and 3 more jobs that we just saved. So that's kind of what we're trying to work towards, and justifying it to ourselves, and making those hard decisions, because all of us are in that position to be making those hard decisions for the benefit of the big picture. And we're hoping that it's sooner rather than later that we get back to our happy place. That's our biggest hopes and our dreams across the board, is that we get there sooner rather than later. But obviously planning for scenario A, B, C, and Z down the line, because we all know that in 48 hours, what we're doing now may very well change. And with that, your margin of error, when you're running very efficient, your margin of error is going to be very minute. So we need to make sure that we're maximizing efficiency. And again, going through this practice, you're seeing the individuals that are fully committed to what we're about, and that is a great building block for the future.
Thank you, John. On behalf of the Student Development Committee of the National Capital Chapter of CMA, I wanted to thank Alicia, Alex, and John very much for their time. We are going to go ahead and transition now into the non-recorded portion of this for those that do want to stay. Kate, I just ask if you would unrecord the second